Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon Movesets video. Today's video is going to be all about Electrode, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Electrode is an electric-type Pokemon introduced into Generation 1 that has access to 3 abilities, the first of which being Soundproof, which prevents this Pokemon from being affected by sound-based moves, such as Hyper Voice or Roar. The second being Static, which gives this Pokemon a chance to paralyze opponents that damage it with contact-based moves. And the third being Aftermath, which is its hidden ability that will reduce its opponent's health by 1/4 when Electrode is KO'd by a contact move. As for its stats though, Electrode is fairly frail defensively, possessing only a base 60 HP, 70 defense, and 80 special defense, meaning that this Pokemon will not be able to take hits particularly well, and it also doesn't really have any access to recovery outside of an item or rest, so it's not really going to have a great way of sustaining itself throughout the battle. Offensively though, it has a fairly low base 50 physical attack, but a pretty respectable base 80 special attack, which allows it to do some pretty good damage with the special moves that it has access to. But the best thing about Electrode is its speed stat, being a base 150 speed stat, which is absolutely crazy fast, and will allow this Pokemon to outspeed pretty much everything it's matched up against, even some things that are packing a Choice Scarf because of just how high this stat is, which is one of the best reasons to use this Pokemon. But with all this in mind, this Pokemon currently finds itself in the PU tier. So with that, let's take a look at the first moveset that I have for you in this video. So for this first moveset, we're going to be using Electrode to basically prevent hazards from being set up on the battlefield. So we're going to go ahead and start by giving it a Timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, go with the Aftermath ability, and an EV spread of putting either 252 EVs into its HP or its special attack if you want to give it a little bit more bulk or a little bit more powerful, even though this set isn't really designed to hit that hard. And then we're going to put 4 into its special defense and then 252 EVs into its speed stat to max that out. And for the item on the set, you can either go with a Focus Sash to allow this Pokemon to live any hit from full health by surviving with 1 HP, or go with Leftovers to give it a little bit of recovery at the end of a turn, which will help it be a very useful pivot, because it will be able to reduce some of the damage it might take on the incoming when this Pokemon switches in to force other things out. But for the moves, the first one that we're going to go ahead and go with is going to be Taunt, to basically prevent our opponents from using any non-attacking moves. And this is particularly useful against opposing walls, and even Pokemon that are trying to set up hazards, because this will basically prevent them from setting up hazards. But the other really unique move that this Pokemon has access to also do the exact same thing is Magic Coat. But the way that this move works is that it will actually bounce back any non-attacking moves that are used against Electrode. So for example, if your opponent tries to go for Stealth Rock, you can Magic Coat the Stealth Rock, and then Stealth Rock will get set up on your opponent's side of the field instead, and then you could possibly taunt them on the following turn to make it so that they can't set that up themselves, and you just got up rocks for free because your opponent tried to go for them. And this move has a number of different unique uses. You can use it against opposing Pokemon that are trying to status you and things like that as well, so it's a very cool move that this Pokemon can make use of very easily. But in addition to this, we're going to run just one electric attack on the set in the form of Volt Switch to give us that pivot utility that it allows for. And then for the last move on the set, there are quite a few options we can go with. We could either go with Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Ice for some additional type coverage, Hidden Power Grass being particularly noteworthy because this Pokemon might be matched up in a lead type position against a lot of ground types, because those are typically the Pokemon that will set up hazards, or even rock types as well. But Hidden Power Ice also gives you some really good coverage as well. The other option is to possibly go with Foul Play, because this can be a really great way of giving this Pokemon some added utility and being able to damage Pokemon that are particularly invested in physical attack that this Pokemon might be matched up against. But if you want to go for a status, Toxic is definitely the way to go, as a way to allow this Pokemon to potentially cripple something with a status and then switch out with Volt Switch into something that can appropriately counter your opponent's Pokemon. But overall, this set is just amazing at shutting down hazards and non-attacking moves because of how fast this Pokemon is. As for this next moveset, I have another kind of lead set for Electrode to make use of, but in an entirely different way. So we're going to start this one off by giving it a Timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, and go this time either with the Static or the Aftermath ability, depending on whether you want that chance to paralyze, or if you just want to go for the extra damage this Pokemon gets when being KO'd by a contact move. But for the EVs, this time we're going to put 4 into its defense and then max out its special attack and speed stats to give it its maximum damage potential possible, while also making it as fast as it can possibly be, which comes in handy. And then for the item, again, either running a Focus Sash to survive with 1 HP when you're at full health, or going with a damp rock, because this set is basically meant to set up rain for teams that are going to be trying to abuse the rain weather. And so with the damp rock, we'll be extending the turns of our rain dance, which is the first move on the set, from 5 to 8 to give us more use of that rain being up on the battlefield. Then with this, we're going to go ahead and run Thunder, which is going to have 100% accuracy while the rain is up on the battlefield, and also just be a very powerful electric type move, which Electrode definitely benefits from because it not having the greatest special attack in the world. Then we're going to go ahead and run either a coverage move in the form of Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Ice to give this Pokemon a little bit more ways of dealing damage to its opponents, or going with Taunt like on the previous set to possibly prevent this Pokemon or this Pokemon's opponents from setting up hazards or using any non-attacking moves, which can be very useful on this set as well, because you could potentially Taunt on the first turn, prevent your opponent from setting up a hazard, and then go ahead and Rain Dance on the following one for free because you're going to at least survive a hit if you're running the Focus Sash, or you can just set it up right away and possibly even just benefit from being KO'd because you can then immediately switch out into something to take advantage of rain. But for the last move in the set, we're going to allow this Pokemon to retain its pivot ability by going with Volt Switch here as an option, or by going with Explosion, which can be a very great way of basically allowing Electrode to blow itself up and then easily for free bring in a Pokemon to take advantage of rain on the following turn. But both of these options kind of serve a similar purpose, and they basically get Electrode out of the battlefield to switch something else in to then take advantage of rain. But being one of the fastest Pokemon to set up rain, this is a very, very cool set for this Pokemon to run, and as many of you may know, this is kind of reminiscent of its role on a lot of 4th gen teams where Electrode was commonly seen on rain teams like this set is meant to be used on. But moving on to a more offensive set for this Pokemon, we're going to start this one off by giving it either a Timid nature to boost its speed but lower its physical attack, or a Modest nature to increase its special attack but lower its physical attack, and then going with either Static or Aftermath. For the EVs though, these are also going to be the same as the previous set to max out your special attack and your speed, but for the item, since this is a more offensive set, we're going to go ahead and run either Choice Specs to boost your special attack while locking you into a move, a Choice Scarf to boost your speed while locking you into a move which will virtually make this Pokemon the fastest thing on the battlefield no matter what you're matched up against, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacks at the cost of losing 10% of your health every time you damage an opponent, or a Z Crystal to correspond to one attack on the set to give you a one-time use of a super powerful move of that type. But for the moves, our basically electric type move of choice here is going to be Thunderbolt to allow this Pokemon to deal as much damage as possible with an electric type stab attack. Now you could also potentially run Discharge on this Pokemon, but because of this Pokemon, as mentioned before, not having the greatest special attack in the world, the added power of Thunderbolt really does help with this Pokemon dealing damage a lot more effectively. But then we're going to go ahead and run either Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Ice for some additional type coverage, as well as also run Signal Beam for a very similar purpose, which will especially allow this Pokemon to match up well against grass types that will be resisting its electric type stab attacks, if you don't want to go with Hidden Power Ice especially. But for the last move, again, the Volt Switch is going to be there to allow this Pokemon to just deal a good bit of damage upon switching out, which is particularly threatening when used in combination with Choice Specs, because you'll get that added boost in the damage, plus being as fast as this Pokemon is, you will have no problem Volt Switching on a variety of things you're matched up against, which makes this set very strong and very easy to use on any kind of team. Moving on to this next offensive set, we're going to be using Electrode kind of as a boosting attacker, which is going to run a lot of similar moves to the previous set. So again, we're going to go with the Timid nature to boost its speed and lower its physical attack, going with either the Aftermath or the Static ability, and the same EV spread as before to maximize our special attack and speed. For the item this time, we're either going to go with a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of its attacks at the cost of losing 10% of its health, an Air Balloon possibly to allow this Pokemon to levitate over the battlefield to basically rid it of its one weakness, which is to ground type moves until the balloon is popped, which allows setting up to be a little bit more easy. And then also possibly even running an Assault Vest on the set to give this Pokemon a nice boost to its special defense, while it also attempts to set up, which could make setting up a lot more easy against an opposing special attacker. But basically, this entire set is based around using the move Charge Beam, which has a % chance to basically increase your special attack by one stage. An Electrode outside of Charge Beam doesn't really have a super reliable way of doing this, but this will allow this Pokemon to boost its special attack significantly higher and allow it to do a lot more damage without having to be locked into a move like it would running the previous set with the Choice Specs item. So this gives it all the freedom of the previous set, while also allowing it to switch up moves a lot more easily. So again, Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Grass or Hidden Power Ice, and Signal Beam are going to be our moves of choice here to just basically give this Pokemon its best type coverage possible, and it will allow Electrode, after a couple of boosts, to really tear through opposing teams if they don't have anything that is able to outspeed this Pokemon's blazingly fast speed stat. And finally, for the last moveset of this video, we're going to be using Electrode kind of as a mixed attacker, and I'll explain how this set works as I go through everything. But we're going to start by giving it a naive nature to increase its speed but lower its special defense, going either with Static or Aftermath, and this time a very interesting EV spread of 196 attack EVs, 100 special attack EVs, and 212 speed EVs. And the reason behind this is that 196 attack basically gives this Pokemon enough attack investment to KO a lot of opposing Pokemon after a -2 defense drop from the move Screech, which is one of the attacks on this set. Now, granted, there are quite a few more things that you could possibly KO with this investment, but if you wanted to run more into your special attack and take away from your physical attack, you could very easily do that. This set will not be any much less effective that way, and it really just depends on what you want this Pokemon to be able to KO with Explosion, potentially. And I'll explain why that's important a little bit later. But the 212 EVs is also of particular note because this actually gives you enough speed to outspeed base 80 speed Pokemon that are Choice Scarfed, while still making this Pokemon incredibly fast. So it's not going to be max speed, but it will still be able to outspeed a lot of stuff, and even those Choice Scarf base 80s that you may be matched up against, which is very good. But for the item, again, a Life Orb is an option to increase our damage while losing some of our health, but Normalium Z can also be used on the set as well, to be used in combination with Explosion to give you a one-time super powerful normal type attack of 200 base power, which I believe is Breakneck Blitz, if I said that correctly. And this is particularly cool for a lot of reasons, but mainly just because it'll allow you to use Explosion twice, one time as Breakneck Blitz and the second time as Explosion, even though the 200 base power Z move is a little bit weaker than Explosion actually is. But the main premise behind the set is to basically allow Electrode to be a powerful special attacker that is quite fast, but also have the option of KOing opposing special walls. And after a -2 defense drop from Screech with this investment, you can actually kill stuff like Blissey with Explosion, which is particularly cool. Now, Blissey obviously is not a PU Pokemon, but I'm just using that as a frame of reference. There are quite a lot of things that this Pokemon can KO with Explosion after a -2 defense drop from Screech. But the also interesting thing about this set is that if opponents see this, they may just go ahead and switch out because they'll expect the Explosion, with which you can then just go ahead and Volt Switch on them and then gain some switch initiative. So this is particularly cool for that reason as well, because you can force a lot of switches, but obviously Thunderbolt will be the stronger electric type move, and then Hidden Power Grass and Hidden Power Ice are there for additional type coverage, specifically against opposing ground types that you might want to hit super effectively that will be obviously immune to your electric type stab. But overall, this set just has a ton of utility built into it and allows Electrode to function a little bit differently and allows it to potentially KO opposing special walls that would otherwise prevent it from doing any sort of damage whatsoever. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video on Electrode. So thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time.